Today is January 25th. It's the 25th day of the year, and this is the On This Day podcast. Today is Burns Night in Scotland, the day each year on which Scots across that nation and around the world host Burns suppers to celebrate the birth of Scottish poet Robert Burns, born on this day in 1759. Robert Burns is generally considered to be the national poet of Scotland. He's one of the leaders of the late 18th century Romantic poetry movement, writing poems in both English and a Scots dialect. Poems that students in many countries still read today. A Red, Red Rose, A Man's a Man for a That, and To a Mouse. Robert Burns's most famous poem is set to a folk tune and sung every year during the Scottish New Year's celebration Hogmanay. It's the same song sung at the stroke of midnight throughout most of the Western world. Auld Lang Syne. In 1796, his 12th child is born on the very same day when Robert Burns is buried, having passed away at the age of 37 from complications of a rheumatic heart. 5 years later, in 1801, the first Burns Club is formed in Greenock, Scotland, by some of his friends, acquaintances, and admirers. They hold a dinner in his honor on the anniversary of his death and dedicate their gathering, quote, to cherish the name of Robert Burns, to foster a love of his writing, and generally to encourage an interest in the Scottish language and literature. The following year, a second gathering of the Burns Club is held to honor his birth. And in the years that follow, the tradition grows in Scotland and elsewhere as Burns Clubs sprout up amidst the spreading Scottish diaspora around the world. The Burns Night tradition of a Burns supper is a raucous festivity that adheres to a particular order of business, centered around the consumption of a fair quantity of haggis, whiskey, and poetry. The evening's proceedings, as originally set forth at the Mother Club in Greenock, begin with bagpipers piping in dinner guests with traditional Scottish music. The host welcomes those gathered, and then the Selkirk grace is given. Some hae meat and canna eat, and some wad eat that want it, but we hae meat and we can eat, and say the Lord be thankit. Then the haggis is piped into the room. Haggis is, of course, well, trust me, you don't want to know what it is. Let's just say it's a traditional Scottish meal. The haggis is carried into the room, accompanied by a bagpiper. It's set on the head table, and an honored guest reads the Robert Burns poem, Address to a Haggis, the reader holding a knife at the ready to cut into the haggis on cue. The BBC offers this warning for this particular moment in the proceedings, quote, it's wise to have a small cut made in the haggis skin before it's piped in. Instances are recorded of top table guests being scalded by flying pieces of haggis when enthusiastic reciters omitted this precaution. Consider yourselves warned. The rest of the evening is a specific running order of toasts to the haggis, readings of Burns poems, a moment called the Immortal Memory, a speech that ends in a toast to the immortal memory of Robert Burns. More Burns poems, more drink, a toast to the lassies, honoring the ladies present. More readings of Burns, a reply to the toast of the lassies, in which the ladies respond in kind to the men, a vote of thanks to the guests for attending, and a rendition of Auld Lang Syne, which concludes the Burns Supper, the Scottish celebration on Burns Night, celebrated on this day every year. There are 340 days left in the year. On This Day is produced by me, Dave Schultz. Thank you very much for listening. Here's a little traditional Scottish music to get your Burns supper started. The talented Roddy Frame and Aztec Camera. So if you're still listening, dare to be honest and fear no labor. Talk to you tomorrow.
I brought you some fries from my traveling chest. You spare me the thanks. Do you know I I swore we'd never let it